Hi, I'm Tracy with Legacy Woodworking Machinery. Today we're going to build a fireplace surround out of walnut. Now we started off with two blanks, 3.5 inches wide, 2 inches thick, and 30 inches long. We've clamped one blank up into the machine with the horizontal vices, and we're simply going to surface one edge. Now for details on doing this step, refer to your training video or the techniques online. Now that side is all surfaced, perfectly flat, so we'll put in the second one and repeat this process. Now we've taken these two pieces, 3.5 inches wide, 30 inches long, and we've already machined them flat on the front and the back. We drilled a couple of holes and just bolted it to the optional pilaster dogs. That way we can mount it between centers and turn it like it's one solid column, even though we're only turning two components. You don't need the two on the side. Just the two pieces will be sufficient. Now for detailed instructions on turning stock round, refer to your instructional training videos or the techniques online. Now we turn the diameter down to 6.25 inches. Notice that we set stops at both ends so that we would not cut the screw with the router bit. For the next step, we're going to use the optional rotary table to machine a rosette onto the base blocks for the columns. We used a surface planing bit just to machine one surface perfectly flat and then applied some double-sided tape. We then attached that to the waste block on the rotary table, of course lining up each corner with a line. Now we're ready to start cutting the blank. Now to ensure that the base blocks are both exactly the same thickness, we'll plunge the bit down until it touches the surface of the wood here. And then we'll set the scale to 0 and we'll raise it to the desired height. So we've raised it here to 1.85 and set our stop. Now we're not going to cut clear to the center, so I'm going to adjust the y-axis so the router is 1/4 inch to the near side, and then we'll go ahead and set a stop on the back side right here. Now to make this cut, I'll open the split nut so that we can just slide the carriage forward and backwards like this up to the stop. Of course, we'll need to set the router over the center of the carriage and lock it in place. And we'll start making our cuts. Now let's just take a close-up look for a second so you can see what's going on. Now by turning the handle 1/2 turn, it gave us 16 individual cuts for these reeds. Next we'll place the router here and we'll cut around the perimeter using the same plunge depth, the same router bit. Now I'm going to lock the split nut onto the lead screw here so that I can position the router as we're making the cut. We'll bring it back over center and lock it in place. Now I'm going to drive it into 2.5 inches to cut around the perimeter. Now we're going to change to the bit number 2704. It's a surface planing bit. We'll need to plunge down at least as deep as the bottom of that cut, probably just a few thousandths deeper, and machine off all this material on the outside of the rosette. Now with the surface planing bit, I plunge it down till it rests on the surface the same way and hit 0, and then we'll raise it 1.84. And that's 0.010 of an inch deeper than the other cut. Of course, set our stop right there. Now to make the custom molding for the mantle, we've taken the horizontal vices and clamped a table into the machine, and then we've attached this piece of stock here with double-sided tape to the table. We're going to be machining on the edges of the stock, so we didn't want to use the clamps and ruin the router bit. So we scribed a line, marked a line down the center of the table here, and then attached this stock with double-sided tape. Now for this first cut, we're going to use the surface planing bit. We've plunged it down to the surface of the wood, and then I dropped it down 0.4 of an inch, or 0.4 on my digital scale. We've set a stop in the y-axis, and we'll just cut this first step, and we'll make this in multiple passes. Now we're going to be cutting on this back edge right here, and we don't want to tear out the grain. So we're going to climb mill along this edge by cutting from the right to the left. Now we're going to use the V-groove bit. We're going to chamfer this edge here and chamfer this edge here. Now that we've beveled these two edges, we're going to cut the dental molding in the center section of this molding. So we found the center of the part, and we set a stop in the y-axis to control the length or the height of the cut. And now we'll simply make a cut and move it using the handle 1¼ inches, which is 5 turns. Now just a little sanding to clean that up, and you see that we've machined 30 inches in the middle. Now the columns are made up of 3 components. The center part, of course, was milled between centers on the ornamental mill. Then we've got 2 edge pieces that we simply cut to size, and then we used a table saw to chamfer the edges. So you can see the small chamfer we put on here with the table saw. Now what we'll do is we'll want to glue these parts on the edge like this. This is the base block, and it's going to create this column like this. We actually built a shim to adjust the height of the centerpiece to the desired thickness. And once we've glued those 2 pieces on, this of course is going to sit on the base block like so. We've got the molding complete, and we've also cut the top of the mantle, the base for the mantle, and the face for the mantle. 2 inches wide, The top of the mantle is 4 inches wide, the base of the mantle is 3, and the face is 9.5 inches. Now this piece was glued up with an extra piece that's going to be covered like so. Now the chamfer was either cut on a table saw or with a router bit, either way. And we also cut a dado in here for the face to fit into. Notice that the grain wraps back as we mitered this to return the grain so we have no end grain on the base piece. Now we've mitered the ends of the faces as well, so when we drop this into the miter, right there, and return it on the end like so. Of course the mantle top is going to go onto here, and the molding is going to lay right up underneath like so.